Ever stop and think about how many apps you use every day? Like, seriously, it's kind of crazy. Scrolling through social media, checking the news, ordering takeout, it's all happening on our phones and computers, and all that information they show us. It's constantly being shared and updated behind the scenes.
Yeah, totally. It's a constant flow of data.
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. We're diving into the fundamental ways those apps talk to each other, APIs and webhooks. You've probably heard those terms, especially if you're a little bit techie, right? But the difference isn't always clear.
You got it. You see them mentioned in articles or documentation, and yeah, sometimes it can be a little fuzzy.
Right. So our goal today is to really cut through the jargon and break down what makes them distinct, and even more importantly, when each one is the right tool for the job.
Exactly. It's all about using the right tool at the right time, and for that, you need to understand the difference.
And at the core of all this, it actually comes down to a pretty simple idea. A pull versus a push model. Think of it like this. Sometimes you go out and get the information you need, and sometimes the information comes to you.
I like that. It's a really good analogy.
We're going to unpack what that actually means for you, as someone using these apps every day, and hopefully give you a better understanding of how the technology you rely on is actually working behind the scenes.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's start with APIs and this whole idea of pulling data.
Okay, so APIs. Imagine you're at your favorite restaurant, right? You're sitting there. You're kind of curious about today's specials. You want to see what they have.
Okay. Hungry already.
So what do? You get the waiter's attention.
Right. You flag them down and say, hey, can you tell me about the special? So in this analogy, you, the hungry diner wanting to know about the specials, that's your application.
And the waiter.
The waiter is our API. You make a request, just like your app sends a request to what's called an API endpoint. Think of an API or application programming interface as like a set of rules that allows different software systems to talk to each other, like a restaurant menu.
Oh, I see. Like the menu lists all the dishes, the data, and actions you can request?
Exactly. Each dish is an endpoint, a specific place you make a request to get something. So you ask the waiter, they go back to the kitchen, get the info about those specials, and come back to your table and tell you.
That's the API in action, getting what you asked for and bringing it back.
Right. Your application is in control. It asks for data when it needs it. That's the pull model. You initiate the conversation and pull the information from the source, like when you check your weather app.
Your phone sends a request to the weather server using an API, and it pulls back the latest forecast.
Boom. Or when you add something to your online shopping cart, your browser uses an API to tell the e-commerce server to update your cart. It's happening all the time.
Yep. Even logging into a website with your Google account. That often uses APIs to communicate between the website and Google servers to verify your identity. APIs are everywhere.
They really are. But what happens when you need to know about something? Like the instant it changes. Say a friend posts a new photo. Do you keep asking the app, are there any new photos? How about now? What about now?
That would be exhausting and pretty inefficient.
Exactly. And that's where just relying on APIs can become a bit clunky, especially if you need real-time updates. Constantly asking, which is called polling, can waste a lot of resources. Like, think back to our restaurant. Imagine you constantly asking the waiter, is my order ready? How about now? Is it ready yet?
And the waiter's just like, not yet. It'll be a few more minutes.
Yeah, and most of the time the answer is going to be, nope, nothing new. Plus, there could be a delay between when something actually happens and the next time you ask, so you might miss things.
Right, like that new photo from your friend might not show up right away if you're only checking every few minutes.
So while APIs are awesome for getting specific data when you ask for it, they're not always the best way to stay constantly up to date.
Right, they're about making requests, not about constantly being informed.
All right, so we've got APIs, the pull mechanism, but there's another way apps talk, one that flips this model around, and that's webhooks.
Webhooks. Instead of asking, you're being told. Think about it like getting a notification on your phone when that package you ordered finally arrives.
Well, that's a good one. You don't have to keep checking the tracking info. The delivery service automatically tells you when it happened.
Exactly. That's the essence of webhooks. They reverse the communication. Instead of you asking for updates, the server, the source of the event, tells your application directly. It pushes the information to you.
Okay, so how does this push actually work?
Well, first, your application needs an address, a unique URL called an endpoint. It's basically a special inbox for these notifications. You give this address to the application you want to receive updates from.
Like, I give the delivery service my home address so they know where to deliver the package.
Exactly. So when something happens in that source application, like, say, someone signs up for your newsletter, it gathers the relevant information about that event. We call this the payload. It's the actual data about what happened, like the new subscriber's email address.
And my application is just sitting there listening at its special URL, waiting for these notifications.
Yep. And when that new subscriber event happens, the source application packages this payload and sends it as an HTTP request, usually a POST request, to your unique endpoint. Your application receives it and can immediately do something with it, like add that new subscriber to an email list or send a welcome email.
So it's like, boom, new subscriber, here's the info, do your thing.
Precisely. Because the information is pushed to you automatically, you get updates in near real time, no constant checking required.
Yeah.
That makes webhooks super efficient for situations where you need to react quickly to events. Like imagine getting a notification in your banking app the instant a transaction occurs.
Oh, yeah, that would be really handy.
Exactly. Or think about stock trading apps that need to show you price changes as they happen. Webhooks make that possible without hammering the servers with constant requests.
So with APIs, I'm asking it's a pull. With webhooks, I'm being told it's a push. That's the key difference.
You got it. It's a fundamental difference in how information flows between applications.
All right, let's really nail this down with a side-by-side comparison. We've got APIs on one side, webhooks on the other.
Sounds good. Let's break it down.
Okay, first up, the model. API is,
Whole.
and webhook is.
Push.
Got it. Now, who starts the conversation?
With an API, your application kicks things off by making a request.
But with a webhook, it's the source application that sends the notification when something specific happens.
Right, like when that new order comes in or that payment is processed.
Okay, so how do they actually communicate?
APIs use that back and forth we talked about, the request-response cycle.
Yeah.
You ask, you get an answer. It's a very direct conversation.
Webhooks, on the other hand, are event-driven. It's less about asking and more about being notified when something happens.
It's like a little alarm bell going off. Hey, this just happened. You might want to know about it.
And how about the data itself? How does that flow?
With APIs, you pull only the specific data you need when you need it. You're in control.
But with webhooks, the source application pushes a set of data to you based on what just happened. It's like they're saying, here's what you need to know about this event.
Exactly. You don't get to pick and choose the data, but you get it right away.
And when it comes to staying up to date, APIs aren't real-time by default. You have to use that polling technique if you need frequent updates. Webhooks, though, are designed for near real-time updates.
Which makes them much more efficient for those situations where you really need to know what's happening as it happens.
And efficiency is a big deal, right? Because constantly polling an API can be really resource-intensive, especially if nothing's changed. Webhooks are much lighter on resources because they only send data when there's actually something new to report.
That's right. It's like getting a text message instead of having to call someone every 5 minutes to see if they have any news.
Okay, last but not least, the setup. How do you actually start using these things?
With an API, you usually call endpoints that are already set up and ready to go. The service provider gives you the instructions on how to access their API. It's like ordering off a menu. The dishes are already there, you just have to choose what you want.
With webhooks, though, you have to provide your own endpoint URL to the source application.
Exactly. That's how they know where to send the notifications. It's like giving someone your address so they can mail you a letter.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got a good handle on the core differences, but when do you actually choose one over the other? Let's start with APIs. When are they the best choice?
Well, if your application needs to get specific data on demand, APIs are the way to go. Like when you search for something on Google, you're sending an API request to their servers, and they send back the search results.
So it's all about your application taking the initiative and requesting something specific.
Right. And if your application needs to make changes to data in another system, like creating, reading, updating, or deleting information, APIs give you that control.
So for example, if I'm updating my profile information in an app, it's probably using an API to communicate those changes to their database.
Exactly. APIs are also a good choice if real-time updates aren't super critical. Like checking the weather a couple of times a day is probably fine using an API.
So if I can live with a little bit of delay, APIs might be all I need.
And even if the data changes frequently, but I only need the latest information when I actually ask for it, polling an API might be easier than dealing with a constant stream of webhook notifications. Like if I'm checking the price of a stock, I don't necessarily need to know every tiny fluctuation.
Got it. So APIs are for when I'm actively asking for information or making changes, When are webhooks the better option?
Webhooks are the way to go when you need to know about something the moment it happens, like in real time. They're great for situations where your application needs to react quickly to events happening in other systems.
Like getting that instant notification when someone comments on your latest social media post?
That's a perfect example. Or imagine a security system that needs to alert you as soon as motion is detected.
Ah, I see. So anything where speed is essential and I need to be notified immediately.
And remember, webhooks are much more efficient than constantly pulling an API, especially when events happen infrequently. It's like having a dedicated line for important messages instead of having to constantly check your voicemail.
They also free up your application to do other things instead of constantly checking for updates.
Precisely. And they're really good for triggering automated actions, like updating a database, sending an email, or even kicking off a whole other process.
But there's a catch, right? The other application needs to support webhooks in the first place.
Absolutely. It's not a universal solution. If the source system doesn't have the ability to send webhook notifications for the specific events you're interested in, then you're out of luck.
So it's always worth checking if webhooks are an option before you go down that road.
Good point.
Okay, so we've got some great examples of webhooks in action, like that instant notification when a new order is placed in your online store.
Or you could have your CRM automatically update the second a payment is processed. That's a real time saver.
And let's not forget about developers who use webhooks to trigger deployments when they push new code to a repository.
And even those Slack notifications you get when a new task is assigned to you in your project management tool, those are often powered by webhooks.
So it's really all around us, happening behind the scenes of so many apps we use every day.
It really is. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it.
So to recap, APIs are about actively asking pull. Webhooks are about being told push, but can they work together?
Absolutely. In fact, they often do. Think back to that e-commerce example. You might get a webhook notification saying, hey, new order, but it might only include the order ID.
Right, so it's just a heads up that something happened. I still need more information.
Exactly. That's where the API comes in. Your application can use that order ID to make a separate API call to get all the details, like the customer's address and what they ordered.
Ah, so the webhook is the trigger, and the API gives me all the details I need when I need them.
Precisely. It's a common and super efficient way to handle real-time events.
Okay, so the big takeaway for everyone listening is this. API is about asking, webhook is about being told. Simple as that.
Exactly. And by understanding that difference, you can start to see why different apps communicate in certain ways, and you can make better decisions about when to use each method.
So, dear listener, the next time you're using an app and you see a notification pop up or two different services seem to magically work together, think about this pull versus push idea. It's happening all the time, all around us, making our digital lives a little bit smoother.
And here's a question for you to ponder. Now that you know about this pull and push, how many times a day do you think your own devices are using these methods to talk to each other, to keep you updated, informed, and connected?
It's really amazing to think about. Our phones are like little communication hubs, constantly sending and receiving information.
Exactly. And most of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. But now you know a little bit more about the magic behind the curtain.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you in the next one.
See you then.